no stopping the clock. Spins ting tock, can they chop? Can hip hop and pop lock? Can beat drops in. Hey, you over there, I know you see me. Is it hot in here or is it chemistry? How's locked in? Baby, take a chance to
Hey everybody, hey, how's it going? Thank you so much for tuning in again to another episode of the Parental Advisory. Please be sure to subscribe, like, and share us on YouTube at the Parental Advisory Podcast. And be sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at the Parental Advisory Podcast. So thanks everybody who has began following us and everybody that will follow us down the road so they can receive some of this invaluable content.
Oh, yeah.
So today we're actually sponsored by William Spice. And since we're so fortunate to have one of the co-owners on, we will let her go into the detail on that. But I did just want to introduce all of our co-hosts. We have in the studio here Terrence with us.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? It's been a long time.
I know it has. And we have Marquita here. How's it going?
How y'all doing?
And then, like I said, we have one of the co-owners of William Spice, Brandalyn Williams. So if Brandalyn would like to introduce herself as our guest host today and give us a little bit of insight on William Spice, that would be great. What's up, Brandy?
Hey everyone, thank you so much for having me. William Spice was an idea. Basically, it was our wedding favor, and I wanted to create a wedding favor that people would actually use, because you know how you go to weddings and it's like some cheap little wedding favor and you toss it in the back seat or it never even leaves the venue. So me and my husband, we thought really hard about what would be, well, at the time, my fiance, we thought about what would be a really great gift to share with our wedding attendees, and people kept asking about it after the wedding. We had people who weren't even invited to the wedding asking about it. So that was the birth of our first baby, which is William Spice. We've had it around for a little over 5 years, and we're available on our website, Amazon. We have a few stores throughout the United States. And we do a lot of corporate gift packaging, and it's just been an amazing journey, and it's a really great way to get to know your husband along the way. Doing business is a whole nother level to your relationship, but we're really happy to be here, and Remy has always been a wonderful supporter of William Spice, and just thanks so much for having me. And I am here as a parent. I have a son, so outside of William Spice, my son is 4 years old, so I hope I will be able to contribute to this wonderful content on this podcast today.
Thanks, Brandy. We know you will. Yes. And I will say William Spice is bomb. You know what I'm saying?
I was talking about it. Yeah,
I want to hype it up. So it's bomb. But we do thank you for being able to spend some time with us today and give us your insight and just, join in on this panel. So today on today's episode, we're going to actually tackle something that we use every single day, or most of us use. I don't know about everybody, but a lot of us. And what that is social media. Yeah. And what we want to discuss is the social media effect on us as parents as well as kids. So like I said, social media is great for so many things, but like anything, there are some negatives about it. So we're going to talk about some of the positives, some of the negatives, as well as some of the solutions that can offset some of the negativity that's surrounded around social media. So, one thing I do want to start off with is just a brief note or a brief stat based on the Cleveland Clinic studies. And according to Cleveland Clinic, shows that children younger than 11 who use both Instagram and Snapchat are more likely to have problematic digital behaviors like having online only friends and visiting websites that parents wouldn't approve of. And in addition to the problematic digital behaviors, there can also be changes in behavior at home, such as increased irritability, increased anxiety, and lack of self-esteem. So, what I wanted to do was just ask a few questions to the panel as far as how do you think social media has impacted you as well as your relationship with your kids?
Yeah. I would start off with this. Growing up, I'm a little older, but we would go outside and play. We would go and do things and have outside time. I see now with this generation, everything's on your phone, everything's mobile in terms of tablets and things of that nature. People spend a lot of time playing games, but also on social media. And it's addictive.
It is. It's true.
Especially if you are you're in a rural area, you've never been to a certain city or location, but you can actually go online now and see what they're doing in the city. You can see what people in different age groups are doing. And I saw evil comparison sometimes too, because you're always looking at people's representation that they're showing online. And it can cause some type of emotional issues because you feel like, oh, I'm not pretty enough or strong enough or handsome enough, or I don't have enough money because everybody's having all this money online. I don't know where to get this money from. But
it's a facade.
A lot
of it is a facade.
But I do think it puts children in a tough situation because they're now always comparing themselves to other people that they don't. And it's also a way to actually have interactions with people who could be very negative towards you. They can be predators online. They can be people who are bullies. Cyberbullying is a big thing. So I think, it has pros and cons because a lot of information is out there that you can learn. It's a lot of different tips and strategies that you can help yourself to improve as a person, but it needs to be done in moderation. I think we'll talk about too, because as a kid, sometimes you need to kind of separate and have some interaction with your family and with your friends and be outside a little bit and not necessarily all on your phone.
Yeah. No, agreed. I mean, I'm same era as you. I mean, that's the thing is we used to go outside and play, and now everybody's on. I mean, and the thing is, it starts at such an early age. Like kids can be 4 or 5 and they know how to use YouTube. Right. And so, like my daughter, she knows how to go on to YouTube. I have to monitor because she likes to get sneaky and go to adult YouTube, and I'm listening to the stuff. I'm like, this isn't it. So I'm like, you need to be on kids YouTube. What is going on? And that's one of the solutions is monitoring the activity, like what it is they're doing, because it's so easy on these social media platforms to go down rabbit holes because you click on one thing and you may start off looking at how to make a pizza from scratch and you look up and they're looking at who's the biggest crush they have. And I'm like, what's going on? So Marquita, I know you have kids that are a little bit older than me and Terrence. So what are some of the things that you've seen how social media has impacted, your relationship with your kids or even how your kids may interact with one another or their peers?
Well, for starters, so my oldest, we've had a time where she was sneaking on social media. For a while, she wasn't allowed to have it, or the pages that she was allowed to have were the ones that I could see. And then we discovered like the secret page, the page that I'm blocked on.
Oh, the Finsta? She had like they was like calling a Finsta account, like a fake Insta.
She had
it was There was the Instagram that I could see, and then there was the Instagram that I was blocked on. Uncles, aunts, like a bunch of people were blocked on. I was like, oh, she was trying to make sure nobody could see this. And then I found it, of course, because neither here nor there, but she's had some pretty interesting experiences. And one of the things that, especially because she'll be 15 at the end of this month. And the biggest thing now is that not just teenagers, but everybody records everything. So if you're not having your best moment, which we had a situation like this last school year where she wasn't having her best moment, that's what we'll put it as. And they recorded it. And it was definitely all over social media. It was all over. It made it through TikTok, Instagram.
Wow.
My nieces was calling me like, did you see this? Yeah.
It was like kids at like school or something? Like how did they make that?
It was a fight. It was a fight.
Okay.
The people recorded.
Okay.
I said it wasn't her best moment. I was trying to be.
That's some world star type stuff. World star.
Yeah, but definitely it made it on there. And then she learned her lesson because she got into additional trouble. Because when people, they take stuff and then they add different memes to it and got captions on it. It got bad. And so and that was a reality check for her. Like, yeah, this can't happen this way. So
see, and
that was one of the things that she had to learn. Like, people record everything.
And that's the new age
and it's
thing.
Not fair.
It's not fair. Because a lot of times we always say, man, I'm glad we didn't have social media back in the day.
I say it all the time.
Right? Seriously.
Oh, I am blessed.
It's insane.
To not have had social media.
Yeah, so many different situations that happen and they go viral so fast. It could be some podunk town in Alabama someplace, right? And then next thing you know, the whole world's looking at it.
Right.
And it just happens in the classroom.
Keisha, no. Remember that was Sharkeisha.
Exactly. Why do I know name Sharkeisha? But I know it because of the internet.
Right. Oh, man.
And not just that. Like, if I've got to run to the store and I haven't, maybe fully lotioned the back of my heel, I got to worry about my foot.
Hey, Ashley.
Making it. Why she's so ashy? Like, just anything. Just like, man.
But I also think that that's where, as parents, we have to change the conversation and change the narrative. Like, I would definitely be teaching my son, and even when I talk to my nieces who are definitely of this age, you should not be recording things that you have no business doing that. If anything, you should be either removing yourself from the situation or helping. But, a lot of times now people will just stand back and record. And I think that we really do need to change the narrative for the generation coming up that that's not actually what you're supposed to be doing. I mean, granted, it's not going to change everything, but I would definitely be like, so you just stood there and recorded?
Right.
That's what you're supposed to be doing.
I mean, that's what they do with
You know?
everything. You see people struggling, somebody getting beat up, somebody, and it's like, instead of helping, what they're going to do is just record it and yell "World Star," and it's like, dude, this person is over here taking an L. Like, where's the end line between, finding comic relief out of somebody struggling and somebody actually being a real person and stepping in and saying, hey, no, this isn't cool.
Exactly. And that's the thing too. A lot of that content that we're talking about here is consumed, right, by your kid. And so, for example, you may have never even seen a fight before. You never seen some type of situation, but you see it online, and then now that influences you because you saw it, you're like, oh, maybe that's okay, even though it's not. And so that's a good point too, Marquita said. And I've heard situations of kids actually getting an account and their parents putting parental blocks on them, and it all works. They create a lurker account.
Yeah.
Or they create some account that doesn't have a picture on it so they can get access to see different things. And especially even with YouTube, on the right-hand side, they have all those suggested posts. And a lot of times it's not even things that you're actually even looking or searching for, but then you're going to click on it because it's a fight at IHOP in Orangeburg. Yeah. And so like you want to watch it, then you go down the rabbit hole.
Yep.
But and social media influences everything. And that's something that you have to try to protect your kids from the best you can.
Yeah. How are some ways that you can protect outside of, because like you say, you set the parental block, you set the monitoring, the time limit, and there's always a way they can kind of go around. So that's like the real challenging part, especially once your kids are a little bit older, because it's just difficult to go in and really block everything.
Correct.
Phones are mine. I bought them and I pay the bill. And even if you did decide that you wanted to pay a bill, you're still my kid. So I take everything at random times. So I'll randomly grab a phone. And my rule is that I should always be able to get into your phone. You can't change the password. If you do, I need to know what it is. So I can always get into phones.
Absolutely.
iPads or whatever, and I'll just go through them randomly. I mean, she's learned some things, like she deletes her text messages. Do know that because she knows I will randomly take her phone.
Yeah, and that's good that you
Ain't
say.
nothing wrong with that.
I'm like, I mean, she deletes. I'm like, that's fine. I mean, do what you do. But I'm not. When I read, like, if I look through her text messages, I don't necessarily care what you're texting about. I just want to make sure you're safe. The actual content that you talk about your friends, I don't care. Like, I'm not about to go confront you. Like, oh, you was cussing to, like, I'm not. That's not what I care about. Like, are you safe?
Yeah.
If something is like not safe, then I gotta say something. But other than that, I don't care what you say to your little raggedy friends. Like,
and I think
I just need to know that you're safe.
And especially for having young daughters as well, you always have to be cognizant about, because it's people who are out here who try to influence people to do different things. I need to make sure that they're having conversations about the right things and protecting them from even situations that they might not even but we're aware of, because people can manipulate you and try to coerce you to do different things of that nature. So we're talking about social media, monitoring inboxes, monitoring the conversations that people are having in DMs or on their messengers, because somebody who is, online, they don't really know you, but they may see an image or a picture that you took and they say, okay, I'm going to shoot a shot or I'm going to do something of that nature. So you got to always kind of be protective of that. And grabbing the phones, like you're saying, that's awesome. That's good. Randomly. Like keeping it on your.
I think it goes back to just how we all were back in the day. Like, as parents, you really need to know the parents of the kids that your kids are associating with.
For sure.
You need to hang out with them. You need to see what they're doing. Like, I think that sometimes, yes, social media is a whole nother world, but just by the content of characters of people that you interact with, that should give you an inkling to, what are they searching for? What type of things are they into? And I don't necessarily think that we should forget that those personal relationships with people's parents, and where are you going, and what are you doing, and who's picking you up, and whose car you're going to be in, all of those things I feel like are just as equally important, if not more important, because where you are at particular times can also get you caught up. So sometimes I think we focus so much on like the online part that we forget, like, do you know so-and-so's parents? Like, do you know their, occupation? Have you had a conversation with them? A lot of times too, the drop off and pickups and coming and going, sometimes you just don't have time. Like, we're just so busy now. So I think that some of those things can slide through the cracks just simply because we're just so much more busier now. Yeah.
And that's another thing, just what, as far as social media kind of squeezing time out of your life. Yeah. I'm guilty of it. I find myself and my daughter calls me out on it. She's like, oh, you're on the phone again. How did you see that picture? What is that? And I'm like trying to explain to her. So then when I turn to her and I'm like, oh, I need to reduce your screen time. She's kind of a smart. She's like, but you're always on your phone. And I'm like, hey, I'm the daddy here. Calm down.
Exactly.
But it is about modeling good behavior on our end.
Yes.
So I've actively set times for myself, like, dude, put the phone away, so that she's seeing, okay, because she sees me on the phone, she sees her mom on the phone, she sees her Gigi, on the phone. We're all doing it. Correct. So it's about setting that model behavior, and it takes, you have to be intentional about it. I have to be intentional because, hey, I'm a kind of a child of the social media era, if you will. It was birthed really when I was in high school and college. Facebook dropped, I think, sophomore, junior year of college for me. So do you find you guys have times when you guys have to like actively force yourself?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm super guilty of it because I run an online platform and I have like 4 different social media accounts and a website. So I'm always on my phone trying to develop content and engage with the followers and things of that nature. So I'm always like on my phone. And so what I realized too, hey, I got an hour and a half before the boy goes to bed. Let me kind of put my phone up for a little bit so I can actually be in the moment. And that's my thing. Even when you're out or at different events and things of that nature, you need to kind of be in the moment sometimes. And putting my phone face down and kind of not looking at it for set times is something I have to do, because I can literally be on it for hours, not even on just personal stuff, but just actually getting information, watching YouTube videos, getting on Reddit, on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, right? You have a lot of these outlets. And so I definitely need to do a better job, because as my child gets older, he sees that, my wife and I, we're on the phone a lot. So he would pick up my phone or her phone and just kind of put it to his ear. Or he would look at it and try to press on it or try to do something of that nature.
My daughter wants an iPhone 13 right now. I'm like, what? You're 6 years old. What do you know about an iPhone 13?
Palm Trio.
But no. That's social media, though. When she's on YouTube, Palm Trio.
That's what you need to do.
No, when she's on, I mean, the kids on some of the things, some of the older, they're talking about iPhone 13s and sweepstakes. And it's like, you shouldn't even know about an iPhone 13.
Exactly.
But, yeah.
My daughter asked for one too. She's 5.
What? See?
Yeah. I was like, no. Her magical number is 10. She swears, I don't know what she thinks happened when she turns 10, but she getting phones. She gonna be driving. She doing a lot of stuff when she turned 10. It's interesting. I'm like, okay.
So I kind of got.
I just actually rushed here from AT&T store because I lost my watch about 2 weeks ago, and I tried to find it before I was like, forget it, I gotta get a new one. And I must say, the watch has allowed me to put my phone down so much more now, because I feel like I can still kind of be, in tune to at least myself, my text messages and things of that nature, some emails or whatever. But I don't have to feel so connected to my phone. And I didn't realize how much I used my watch until I lost it, because my son does like to, he's 4, he does like to play his little games on my phone, and he knows how to access YouTube and all the above. But when I really do need to I don't need to know where my phone is, I feel like the watch kind of makes me at least model the proper behavior. And even when it comes to reading a book, I've been a little more aware, let me go get the regular page turner, because I need to read something, but I don't want to look like I'm on my phone.
Yeah.
So I have found, those ways to kind of get around the actually, not having the phone in my hand and not feeling so connected to it myself, because modeling proper behavior is really important at this age
and that's good, providing those alternatives, such as books or doing sports or even just your face-to-face interactions, because nowadays with social media, I mean, look, you can do everything online. You can shop online, you can date online, you can learn online. So it takes away from that face-to-face social interaction. And in my case, I have an only child, so that's why I like the fact that she, of course, goes to school, but have her involved in extracurricular activities where she's stimulating other parts of her mind. She's in 1st grade now, so I've actually reduced her screen time. I used to, and it's kind of bad, but I used it as a crutch in the morning when we're getting ready and I'm getting pushed back. I throw up YouTube and just let her, but no more. I can't. That is so much stimulation for her early in the morning or late at night. So I've actually eliminated screen time in the morning.
Oh, that's good.
A lot of the screen time in the car because she's getting older, and I explain it to her. I communicate that with her, like, hey, you're not a baby anymore. You know, you are now in first grade. You have homework. You have things you have to focus on. You are in activities. So I try to limit that and not be, you know, a complete authoritarian with it. I still let her utilize it, but not to the extent that we used to.
Correct. And the times that we're living in right now, it's definitely tough because if you think back in the pandemic, basically we had a bunch of virtual remote learning. So kids were on their computer screens 7-8 hours a day, you know, in class, right? And so now you're kind of cutting that away. One of my good friends the other day was saying she has second graders. They've been in virtual learning since kindergarten. They don't even know how to write, some of them, because all they know how to do is type in text. So that's just a skill that's been lost. They don't know how to do cursive right now, and they're supposed to going into that grade. So I think has pros and cons, but it's actually is giving a lot more information than we did have. You know, we had to go to AOL. Or we had to go to Encyclopedia Britannica, right? I love those things, right? But now they can actually search and Google anything they want to, or they can ask Siri or ask Alexa anything they want to, and they can get that information. So I think it's actually a help. They have way more information than we had, but it's also a crutch as well because you can get addicted, as we talked about it, but also you can lose skills that you've definitely had before by simply always just looking at a screen.
Yeah. I'm going to date myself. I wonder how many kids know what the Dewey Decimal System is.
Right.
I remember that dude's like 1.6.458.66. Oh, it's all the way over. Like, even I get into conversations with people that just are maybe 8 or 10 years younger than me, like, man, you guys have had the internet forever. You didn't have to go to the library to actually do a report. Like, I remember having to go to the library, use the Dewey Decimal System,
the
card catalog to find what I needed to do, and actually go to Kinko's. That's how I'm really showing my age. Go to Kinko's to finish because I didn't have a computer at home.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, I mean, things are just different, now. So, I mean, it's good that we have these solutions and monitors that are in place for social media.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's just, and every day there's a new one. You know, I learn and hear new stuff. I'm like, I didn't know.
Right.
So,
I show my age when I'm like, I'm too old. I just can't do this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm getting to a point and with social media, I mean, one of the biggest things that I just, it's so different for me. Like, you have bullies in school that will come up to you in your face and say, you know, you're a punk, you're fat, you're this, that, and the other. But now they get to do what? Hide behind a keyboard. And you can say whatever. And it's causing, you know, suicides, or it's causing some of these mass shootings that we're seeing at these schools. These are kids that have been bullied, cyberbullied. Right. So it's just wild that's an element that wasn't existent, you know, 15, 20 years ago. There was no cyberbullying. You knew who the bully was, and you knew to either take it head on or to, you know, go ahead and go the other way around the bully.
Correct. I
think that just to touch on that, like, cyberbullying, because this is my little soapbox I'm about to get on, because I get it. Bullying, because I'm like, bullying is not the direct cause of the shootings and the suicide.
Okay.
One of the biggest things that I think that happens with social media is that, because bullying has always existed. You know, it's not something new with social media. The issue now with social media is that it used to be, if you go to school, you got bullied. When you came home, it was over with. And now it's not over with. It's consistent. There is no end. It's nonstop. So I go to school, I get bullied. I go home, and all over social media, I'm continuously getting bullied from video, memes, and now what, my bullying is viral, and now it's taken on, it's nonstop. That's what the issue is. It's not necessarily getting bullied.
Agreed.
Because, you know, there's some people that can argue just getting bullied sometimes is a part of life, and it can help, you know, build character. You get older. It's the nonstop. It's the fact that it's incessant.
Wow.
And that's the biggest issue when it comes to why social media is a bigger issue when it comes to the bullying, is because it never stops.
Yeah.
You go to sleep, you could wake up to a phone full of messages of you getting bullied all night long.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest issue when it comes to that, is that it doesn't stop. It's not necessarily that it happens. It's just that it's nonstop.
And then you couple that with the access to information. Some of the information not accurate. Some of the information is, dark holes and dark parts of our society, not necessarily helping in a positive way. So I think when you add that, when people find solace in negativity or solace in, bigotry or, things hurt and harm people, that's, I think, where, that's where having the access can be a problem. But I will say also too, and not necessarily to completely change the direction of the conversation, as a parent of a special needs child, social media has been extremely helpful for me as a parent, which I know sometimes people don't necessarily think about. But when sometimes you can be online as a parent and you feel the need to be competitive in trying to keep up with the Joneses as what everyone else is doing with their kids. But being a special needs parent has allowed me to tap into communities of other special needs parents where, unless you really are on that journey, there's really only so much you can connect with, other people who are just parents. So I will say that, having access to the right communities is very helpful. But in regards to what we were talking about, I think the bullying and then having access to dark spaces on the web or just communities that may not be, rooted in positivity, that I think is where the problem is with where our society is now.
Absolutely.
And like you said, like there are positives with social media, joining those communities, even with kids, like helping their development, such as, being able to communicate and collaboratively, effectively work with others. So there are ways that it can be beneficial, but it's on us as the parent to guide them towards that. You don't want to be the no fun police. You want them to have fun, but you want them to be monitored and within moderation so that they're not being overly exposed. Because here's the thing, you can put every block in place. Kids they're gonna go to a friend's house whose parents don't filter things out and let them do that. Exactly. So that kind of taps on what Brandalyn was saying about getting out there and knowing these parents, knowing who your kids are going to be around. Because I'm not at the point where my kid is having sleepovers, but please be sure that if my daughter is going to go to a sleepover, I'm going to know who the father is, I'm going to know who the mother is, I'm going to know who the siblings are, because there's so many influences that can come around with when you don't know. And unfortunately, in this day and age, some parents don't care. Some parents like, yeah, go ahead and go over there and do whatever. And then when their kid is getting in trouble at school about
my
this
kid
or
would
doing
never.
my kid would never. Like, well, your kid just did. So so just to kind of pivot, I do want to know, like, what is you guys' opinion on actually putting your kids on social media? And I mean posting them on your page, creating their own page for them. What are your thoughts? Because like for me, and if you follow me, like I post my child, never in like a negative manner. Like I'm very proud of my daughter. So if she's doing something, I'm going to post it. And, I make sure it's tasteful and nothing, crazy, but I do post. I didn't let her get her own page or anything like that, but I don't knock anyone that does. Like that's fine. But like as it pertains to me, I will post her on there, but some people are like, I never post my kids, and that's fine for them as well. So what about you guys? How do you guys feel about that, or how do you monitor that? Or
I think everything's personal preference. Some people don't like social media, period. They don't want people in their business. I have private pages. I also have public business pages, but I don't include any type of family on that. But from an overall standpoint, I'm proud of my son, right? It took me a while to get to this point. So in taste and moderation, I do throw him up maybe on some different pictures or stories and things of that nature, but I want to, right? But it's not anything where I'm putting him at risk or anything of that nature. I think everyone has their own kind of judgmental opinion, what they want to do. Some people put them in private groups where only family and friends can see, or just close friends. I think it's kind of what you make of it. But all in all, I think as long as if they have their own public page and they have their own page, you just monitor it yourself. Exactly. And just make sure that people who are following them don't maybe have bad intentions. Kind of go through their follower list and see who they're following. Because you can have a nice page, but if they're following one specific person who may have a lot of negativity or different, fragrant language or things of that nature, everyone's doing their, I'd say, how can I put it this way? People like to do drugs online, on social media, right? Yeah. So that may be an influence that they see and they think it's cool. I saw somebody smoking this, and so I'm going to do it too because somebody I follow does it. Yeah. So you got to kind of just monitor their list.
Especially now that you can vape and stuff like that, and it doesn't look like your regular cigarette or your joint or blunt or whatever. It's like, oh, they're just vaping. It's like, but Do you know how harmful that can be?
Yeah, exactly. Because I don't know. It looks cool.
It looks cool. Yeah.
I will say that, well, okay, with the question of posting kids or not, I rarely post anyway.
Yeah.
I post like on occasion. If my kids are doing something funny, I'll post something about it. I don't really care one way or another. I will say that I post the 5-year-old more often than I post the teenager.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to think about the reason why I do that. I'm not exactly 100% sure because it's not a conscious decision that I make.
Yeah.
It's just something that happens.
And I think teenagers are more accessible too. You know, you're posting a 4 or 5-year-old, they don't know how to use the social media, or they don't probably have a handle. But if there's a teenager, they could possibly have a handle, and then people can, follow them out and things like that could be.
But I will also say that even like when monitoring what your kids are doing, the reality is that, I mean, social media is just one aspect. You could put all the restraints, and kind of like how Brandy was saying that you still need to know the parents, but it's not even just that. Like, I remember when my daughter was in middle school, her friends were okay, but there was still a bunch of kids in the bathroom vaping. So they don't have anything to do with who she's hanging out with or who anything or who she's seeing on social media. Those are just other kids in the same setting that she's in. Yep. And so it's kind of like, so I think like you can monitor everything. I think the biggest important thing is to talk to the kid and let them know kind of where you stand on certain things and how to do things safely or not at all. I mean, being a mom of a teenager, I can tell her what I don't want her to do, but she's a teenager. So we talk about what I don't want you to do, but we also say, well, if you're going to do something dumb, we need to be safe about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, my son has his own Instagram page that was created by me like the day he got out the hospital. I mean, really it was, I mean, I do have a personal brand, and I really did not want my personal brand to be just about my son, because I feel like that would take away from everything I've worked hard for thus far. So I do post on my personal page, family photos or, every now and then something monumental in regards to my son. But he does have his own private Instagram page. And it's really because, I spent 25 years in a whole nother city. So I have so many people who want to still be connected to me in that way. And really and truly, it's only people that follow the page are friends and family. And my husband has access to it. He doesn't post his own pictures. He's pretty much in agreement with whatever I post, but we do disagree or not agree on presenting him in a way that we want him to be able to decide how he wants to present himself on social media in regards to some of the things that he has going on. So yes, it's a highlight reel, and I'm fine with that to a certain, because I have to meet my husband halfway, because we are, two of us are on this journey.
All right, respecting the boundaries.
I'm happy to. Oh, go ahead.
No, I said okay, respecting the boundaries of parenting.
Gotta respect the boundaries if you want a happy home or just a happy life in general.
For sure.
But I will say that I'm proud of his Instagram page. It's so funny, like when you scroll back, and I am curious to see when he's of age to have an opinion. Do I have to delete it all? It will one day he's like, Mom, like, no. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to relish in this moment and post all the little cute pics and videos. And yeah, so he literally is like first day out. That was his like first photo. Oh. But those are not pictures that I share on my personal page, right? Because I try to keep it very balanced. But I feel completely comfortable posting 4 pictures of him in one day on his own little private setting. So that's what's been working for us thus far. And who knows, when he gets a little older, if I have to delete it all, but I hope I don't.
I think he'll ride with it. I think he'll ride with it. So like all in all, I mean, we just really tackle the fact that there are some pros to the social media effect, right, as far as giving you access to different communities so that you can learn different things about parenting, but there are also some cons about that. So some of the solutions that we've kind of discussed as it pertains to social media and making sure that kids aren't being negatively influenced is, setting time limits, monitoring the online activity, being a good model yourself as far as your behavior with social media. Like someone just said briefly, talking to your kids about some of the risks that are associated with using social media, encouraging them to use it in moderation, everything in moderation. There's nothing wrong with it, but as we know, there are influences that can be negative. So making sure that they're not just sitting there blindly looking at social media, going down rabbit holes. And then lastly, just providing alternatives such as, sports and those face-to-face interactions to, ensure they're a well-rounded kid and not just a complete social media, just ODing on it. So yeah, I thank everyone for the input that everyone had. Everyone has, of course, different views on that, which is what makes this all so fun in parenting. So I do want to thank Terrence, and I want to thank Brandy and Marquita for all of the feedback. I want to thank once again everybody for tuning in and listening to us. Once again, I want you guys to be sure to follow and subscribe and like us on YouTube at the Parental Advisory Podcast. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at the Parental Advisory Podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in. We look forward to checking you guys out next week, where we're going to be discussing parental burnout and what that is. And anybody who's been a parent, whether you're a parent of a 2-year-old or a 14-year-old, you experience parental burnout. So that's what we'll be discussing on the next episode. So once again, thank you guys for tuning in to the Parental Advisory Podcast, and we look forward to talking to you on the next episode. Have a good one.